do things together. There is camaraderie and unification and learning that happens when you fail together.
Successes and failures will be part of life. Failure is only a failure when you don't learn from it.
Welcome to another episode of Sunny's Silver Linings. Our special guest today is James Hwang, CEO of OnePath and author of the book Dare to Fail. And now, here's your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kaila. Over to you, Sunny.
Hi, James. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Sunny. Great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. And I am loving your book, James. We are going to talk about the book today.
You're ambushing me.
Yeah, no, I love this topic. And yeah, so people who are listening to me today, I have the author of Dare to Fail joining me today. And it's next generation leadership. I'm super excited about having this conversation. So James, I want to start with, in Dare to Fail, you highlight that failure is not an end state, but rather feedback. Can you please elaborate on how this mindset shift has shaped your leadership and the journey that you have had so far and how it influenced your success?
Well, Sunny, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for ambushing me with the actual book. It's an honor for me to talk about it. Thing number two, it's a passion project for me. I didn't write it for you and I actually wrote it for my kids because I actually wanted them, and I've got a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old, and as they kind of aspire into the next. One of the biggest elements that I saw and observed over the course of the last 10 years, especially with the onslaught of social media and digital prowess, it's the environment of likes and dislikes, the environment of, yes, you made it, or no, you didn't, the environment of influencers and non-influencers. So when I looked at failure was not an option in social media. You either got lots of likes or you didn't. And when you didn't get lots of likes, did not matter how you got there, what you did, how you aspired, or what passion project or business project for that matter that you culminated in. What mattered was how many likes you got. And it was the public opinion that made it successful or not successful. And so the theme or the process around why the journey is more important than the end state is we're always never going to be perfect. And I say that again, we're always never going to be perfect. So if that's the adage, then we can always improve. And if we improve, and we improve, at least through my mantra, through failure, right? Through shortcomings, through gaps that we just failed to address. So this ever looping process is, hey, enjoy the ride, dare to fail again. And if you do, you know you're improving.
That's so good. So failure is not the end state. It's kind of overall fuel for you to grow.
That's right.
Right? Yeah.
And it's so hard in today's environment because you look at our kids and our next generation, if they don't get likes or if they don't have the public opinion and approval, right? They deem that as a failure and they just kind of stop the project. And I would argue that if you don't get the likes, add that to be the fuel, right? To say, okay, well, what is it that I need to now accomplish? And then secondarily, and probably most importantly, who cares if you get the likes or not, right? Because now you have to set criteria to say, okay, maybe I didn't achieve perfection. Maybe I didn't achieve the actual exact objective. That's okay. But how are you going to go better next time, right? And that, in essence, is the motivation behind the book.
Yeah. How do you frame other people's opinions? The problem used to be one problem, but with the whole digital media, the world that we live in, the new generation that lives in, it amplified to a totally different level where likes, dislikes, who is saying what about me. And it's just that whole virtual world is impacting a lot more. Because if you don't have that preparation as a human being, then your confidence is at risk. The number one thing that we have to do, especially when we talk about our children, is about helping them prepare how to look at the failure and how to use what my next question is is all more on like how you protect your confidence when you are living in this social media world. So my next question is more a framework. Can you break it down for me and explain how it helps people move from lower levels of influence to achieving higher level of influence? So can you talk to me about the framework?
Yeah. So, Sonny, you and Cam were very close and near dear to my heart when we started talking about John Maxwell. Because if you think about the 5 levels of influence, John Maxwell started that conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really adopted that. And where I have the dare to fail framework associated with that is I call it actionable leadership framework, right? And what I mean is everyone who's in a leadership position or aspires to be a leader of formal or informal influential leader, you start with a position. You may be a team leader. You may be a manager. You may have the title dawned upon you, or you may just be the person that everyone points to and says, hey, he's the guy or he's the gal that's going to speak for us, right? That's informal, but that's positional. And because of that position, you're invited to have a relationship with your team members. I mean, think about that, right? For just a second. If you're the CEO, you're now invited to have a relationship with the person that may be 2 or 3 levels below you. You might say, hey, let's grab some coffee. 9 times out of 10, they're probably not going to say no to the CEO, right? And it's like the manager, if they go, hey, can we have lunch together? 9 times out of 10, they're probably not going to say no. So you have that invitation. The position gives you the invitation to be relational. And that relational is the opportunity and for us to really get to understand the objectives, the passion, the motivations, right, of that team member. I'll give you a case in point. On our team, I always say, hey, do you know their middle name? And you kind of go, well, I know Sonny, I know Kaila, I know James, I know Wang, but do you know their middle name? Well, if you can get their middle name, you're actually asking questions and conversations about them. And so you're building that relationship. And once you have a relationship, then they're now more apt to accept your invitation to go try new things. And this is the level that the dare to fail really addresses, which is pragmatic. Pragmatic means when we go do things together, we either fail or we succeed. But either way, you're building trust and you're building influence. And that pragmatic loop is what I would say, dare to fail even more. Because when you can laugh together on things that you failed, I can tell you 9 times out of 10, you're building camaraderie. You're building even more trust, even though that you fail. I'll give you a perfect case in point. We had, don't think anything negative of us, but when ChatGPT first came out, we said, hey, engineers, let's jump into this. Let's really adopt this, really, really embrace this. And some of our engineers, they did. One of our engineers actually went all the way deep into, hey, I'm doing move out, change deletions. I'm doing this manually. What if I could just get a script and if I could get ChatGPT to give me a script to do this? Now, shame on us as leaders, we didn't put the frameworks to quality control. But this engineer just took it upon themselves to ask ChatGPT, get the script, copy it, paste it, and run it in a production environment. Needless to say, we locked up that production environment, right? Failed miserably. Clients were upset. We got it fixed. But the whole facet of that is when we looked around and we went to the employee, we just busted out laughing and said, man, that was a colossal failure, right? How do we improve that? And you just automatically see all of us just kind of like embracing as brothers or a band of brothers and sisters and going, okay, I screwed that up. Phew. Okay, well, go ahead and screw that up even more. But next time, maybe not putting in production. Maybe this time we'll put it into a sandbox first, right? But I think that's a great example. We thrusted the business forward by creating ambitions to say, go try it, right? And if it fails, we got your back. And the more that you can pragmatically do that, then it kind of ultimately leads into the last level, which is mentorship. Mentorship is now, with all the mistakes I've made, I get to now impart those mistakes into others and say, well, I'm not telling you not to do that, but I'm telling you as a guide, this is what happened to me when I tried that. So take it under advisement. But as that mentorship, that's just a great steward of the business to be able to kind of teach into others or maybe speak truth into others to be able to say, yeah, this is what you could do. And this is what you could still fail. And that's okay. but here's what happened in the last period of time, right? That's the four level steps of the actionable leadership framework.
Yeah, that is so good. And thank you for sharing that personal, your example. That was like so perfect. And I think that gives so much of that positive environment to be more innovative, try new things, try bigger, like make bigger choices and not being afraid of failure. Like we are entrepreneurs because we are always trying new things. We are driving always in that fog with conviction that we're going to get there, and we fail. And if we do see that as a positive thing to be a successful entrepreneur, the risk taking factor, then we do want to foster that culture, that environment within our teams as well. So they can do the same thing, and it becomes more like an entrepreneurial leadership team, not just a leadership team, because that is entrepreneurial attitude will require that type of environment where you are safe to fail.
Yeah, and Sonny, I want to clarify one thing though. Sometimes, our perspective on failure is not just about the process of improving, but sometimes it's also as leaders, entrepreneurs, managers, CEOs. Sometimes it's making tough decisions. Tell me a leader that hasn't had to make a tough decision on a person, right? Tell me a situation where they did not terminate employment of a person. Those are tough decisions. And from their perspective, they might view that as a failure. From their perspective, they might be going through this cycle of, being angry, being mad, being sad, and then sometimes being glad, as they would say, right? The sheer fact of the matter is, how many times did you get, an attaboy, which makes you feel good? But sometimes, how many times did you get hey, that wasn't so good? And in fact, that should not be tolerated. In fact, I cannot tolerate that any further, right? That speak or truth being spoken into others. And yes, sometimes it's termination, sometimes it's exiting an employee. But what you've really done is that failure has maybe propelled them as an added fuel for them to be able to kind of improve upon their gaps, maybe even be blossomed elsewhere in the right environment, in the right culture, or in the right attitudinal phase of their life, right? To be able to kind of prosper. Because, in my life, I never succeeded, on all of my endeavors. There are jobs that I was terminated from or I was reassigned from. And those things kind of woke my attention to say, okay, how do I now do it better? And so it's the mental capacity to be able to say, failure is not a bad thing. Sometimes a
Yeah.
failure is a good wake up call, and failure is a good next step in the process of where I'm going.
Yeah. Like it really gives you that resiliency as well, right? So we will fail. The alignment is the main challenge there, or compatibility is the challenge. In those cases, we all have to make those decisions, and harder decisions are part of life. Harder decisions faster are better. And what you are teaching here is a life skill, which can make anyone more resilient, more confident, with a positive focus to learn and grow and create bigger future. That is so amazing, so awesome.
Sonny, I'll give you we'll go from business to personal life, and hopefully you'll get a laugh out of this. My son's now 21, and if he listens to this, I hope that he doesn't get upset at me. But, when you're going through high school and you want to go to homecoming and you want to ask that girl to homecoming, HOCO, right? And they, nowadays they do it in reverse where the girls are asking the guys and so on and so forth. Um, but my son wanted to go to homecoming, and he's a good looking kid. He's got great personality. I'm biased, of course, but I actually wanted him to fail a couple of times. And not because I want to kind of run him down an emotional negative path, but think about that for just a second, right? Those guys and gals that go up and go, hey, you want to go to homecoming with me? And you don't really have the personality. You don't really have the what I call the rap, right? That be able to go talk to a gal or a person of your liking. He got rejected like 4 times. And each time you had to kind of nurse him back and say, oh, you can try this, or you can try this. By the 5th time, when he was more naturally just speaking, he goes, hey, I really like enjoy your company. I just want to go to homecoming, but I want to go to homecoming with a gal, a date. I want to go through the festivities. Would you be willing to do that with me? And just in I even heard him speak on the phone when he did that. He actually not texted. He actually spoke on the phone, right? And when he asked it, she goes, yeah, why not? I think that sounds like a great opportunity. And by the fifth time, you can just kind of see his speech, his rap, just maturing from the first rejection to the second rejection to the third rejection, right? It just improved by the time that he was so natural in having that conversation. B, he wasn't nervous as much as he was the first. And C, he kind of just had a tamed level of expectations. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, great, right? Then I'll just go with my friends, right? But the sheer fact is you just watched him grow in 5 conversations, right? 4 rejections and 1 acceptance. And that's probably the best way I could just kind of say, yeah, that's kind of a laughter, right? I don't know if everyone goes to homecoming, but I just looked at my son going through that and I go, yeah, that's what Dare to Fail is all about, right?
That's a great kind of connectivity tissue there with the personal example.
Yeah.
And if your son is listening, your dad loves you, and so he's sharing this with so much pride, right? So much pride, and I'm so glad that you shared that, James. If I can share one example with my son as well, I think you have probably seen him, Sean.
Yeah, I have.
He's a character. He enjoys build it as well. So I took him to Barcelona, James, and it's like entire family.
Yep.
And we are seeing buildings, and Gaudi is one of the top architects that ever lived on this earth in Barcelona. And so we have a tour guide. He's showing us building after building. There were like 2-3 top architects in Barcelona, and he was showing all the buildings. And he said, okay, this architect, this was his last building. So with every single architecture, we will stop, we will absorb, and I will ask them a question. What did you learn from this? So the tour guide is telling us that this was the last building by this architect. He was Gaudi's competition. And after building this was a failure for him, this building. And what he did after building, when the building was not successful, this was his probably like 100 plus projects, a lot of successful projects, but this one failed. He jumped off of the building and killed himself.
Oh.
And I mean, it was like, well, what did you learn from this when we were leaving? That was my question. And then Sean goes, Daddy, his probably daddy did not teach him how to fail effectively.
What an appropriate, apropos statement.
And I think what you are doing is like, you see how you look at life, and successes and failures will be part of life. I think in my view, overall, I think failure is only a failure when you don't learn from it. That's, you paid the price, is cost, but you did not learn what worked, what didn't work, and what action I'm going to take next time to improve my experience. And not repeating the mistake is I think should be the goal. We are either learning or winning. Yeah. There is no failure. But okay, so last question I have for you, James. I know you have a hard stop. If you could give one piece of advice to listeners who are afraid of failure, what would it be?
Yeah. So very good question. People have been drawn to, I have to be perfect, or I have to get it right. I remember even in some of the Asian cultures, you have to get 100 in your report card. If you don't, there's something wrong. And I think you can relate. I can relate, certainly.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think number one is the mindset of what is acceptable and what is not. So having that iterative mindset is number one, a prerequisite. And if you're going to be perfect, I would always say, by starting this conversation on our podcast today, is that there's nothing that's perfect, and you will aspire to it, but never achieve it. Right. If you understand that, you've got to reframe your mindset. Right. The mindset is always improving. right? And I think number two, when they're afraid of failure, don't, right? And you kind of go, well, why do you say that, James? Don't, right? Because the process is the success, not the end result. If you're just focusing on the end result, people aspire to have $1 million or $10 million or wealth beyond their recognition. Okay, great, good aspiration. How are you going to get there? The reality is, to help that mindset is there's never a straight line. Sure, there might be a person that wins a lottery ticket, but you can't predict that. But the reality is you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, and it's okay to have downs. And the mental capacity is, if you believe things that go up may come down, things that come down may go back up, and it's going to oscillate, which I firmly believe. The mindset is, if I iterate to perfection, then second, if I take failures as an improvement vehicle, and third, most importantly, in that actionable leadership step, especially for leaders, if you're positional, relational, pragmatic, and mentorship, my most important step is everyone be pragmatic. Do things together. Whether you're a parent, do things together. Whether you're a leader, do things together. Whether you fail, do things together. There is camaraderie and unification and learning that happens when you fail together. Because I know that you put forth the best effort, but it still failed. So who am I to judge? But let's just improve upon that and iterate to perfection, right? And so if we have that mindset, then I think people that are afraid of failure, go out there and fail. When you have the right culture, when you have the right leader, when you have the right environment and the right team, they're going to support you, put you back up on that bicycle, and then take those training wheels off. If you get a scratch or if you wreck, get back up again, right?
Yeah.
Because isn't that what we're trying to accomplish? That book is all about every bit of my failure, from my West Point, my graduation, my first assignment, my foreign areas office, all the way into my juxtaposition of private equity. Like I haven't been successful every step of the way on every initiative, but I've learned something from that. And then now I've adopted something to improve upon that.
That is so good. That is so good. And I think leadership, right? So I normally talk about leadership on Silver Linings. And leadership it starts with us. It's more of a present activity.
Yeah.
And it's more of like, what are you going to do to lead yourself well and then inspire others with your actions?
Yeah.
And I think your book, Dare to Fail, is exactly teaching us how to lead ourselves well, because you cannot be a great leader without, daring to fail. My takeaway is that this book is not only for business people, entrepreneurs, leadership, or like developing leaders, potential leaders in your companies. This is a book that is for your dinner table conversation as well. That if we can teach our loved ones, it could be loved ones at home, loved ones at work, loved ones in our friend circle, how to fail effectively, and how, dare to fail is the thinking about failure. Because successful people, they do make bigger choices. They are not afraid of failures. They learn from it and grow, and they keep expanding. I call it boundaryless expansion. And boundaryless expansion happens when your thinking is like, oh, dare to fail, and let's just learn and grow.
That's
and
right.
That is so essential for home, for work, for our friend circle. And if we do this thinking, if we kind of shift our thinking to think this way about failure, there is no failure. There is learning and there's growth. And we're not repeating those mistakes. And we are learning from those mistakes and changing our experience. And I think if you do that, then it's really, you can build your loved ones to succeed in where they're able to protect their confidence, where they are able to be resilient in their life, because every single person on this earth will face failure. But how you frame it, how you see it, that's where it makes a difference. And James, I truly appreciate you, my friend. You are such a great human being. I love your unique value contribution to the channel, to the work community that you're building, how you are thinking, how you are sharing your wisdom with your team and with this whole channel community. There is so much respect for you, my friend.
Sunny, thank you so very much. And I look forward to kind of building our relationships through the pragmatic lens together. Maybe not fail too much, but let's fail. If we're going to fail, let's fail together, right? So, Sunny, thank you so very much.
Yeah, truly appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for watching Sunny's Silver Linings. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.